The 7 deadly sins are pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. These characteristics can represent what goes wrong in the NBA. I don't mean to judge or put any hate on any of these players I'm going to mention. They're still humans at the end of the day. It's just something that I can't help but see in a few select players, and I really just wanted to point it out. I feel like I have to say that this is completely my opinion, and you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. I'm just giving my perspective on it. Now, let's move on to who represents wrath. Wrath is defined as a strong feeling of hatred or resentment with a desire for vengeance. Wrath usually ends up in violence. The player I can best think of that embodies this sin is Draymond Green. We can all clearly see that Draymond always gets himself into trouble because of his violent actions. He was suspended 5 games for putting Rudy Gobert in a headlock, and just when we all thought it couldn't get any worse, a few weeks later he was suspended indefinitely for nailing Jusuf Nurkic right in the face. He's missed 17 games in total just from his suspensions this season. That's crazy. Of course, we can't forget about the time he also took away Steven Adams' rights to be a father, and the time he punched his own teammate. He's obviously an angry guy considering he's been in more fights than Mike Tyson. This really wasn't a tough decision for me. Draymond's a walking ball of fury who might honestly snap at any moment. Look at him the wrong way and he's gonna instant transmission straight towards you and give you 2 black eyes. He would have been a great boxer. Wrath could not be represented by anyone better than Draymond. An honorable mention is Miles Bridges. Don't ask me why. Gluttony is the overindulgence and consumption of food or drink. Now, gluttony is a tough one to find NBA players, but if we increase the broadness of the term just in this case, we can say that partying and indulging in entertainment and alcohol would probably also be considered gluttony. And for this, I would have to choose James Harden. This isn't really a secret, let's be real here. Harden loves to party. There's countless photos and videos of Harden partying. Kendrick Perkins himself, who used to play with Harden, said that Harden's partying is what led to Russell Westbrook wanting out of Houston. He said if they had some days off, James was on a private jet to Cabo. Some people could say that his crazy lifestyle is what caused him to get worse at basketball, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think if Harden spent more of his time in the gym and not drinking with his buds, he still could have been playing at an all-star level. He's definitely not bad, but obviously he isn't what he used to be. Age probably does play a part too, but there's no doubt about the fact that Harden is a hardcore partier and he fits the description of gluttony perfectly. I'd also argue that Zion could potentially take the spot too. He's had too many donuts in New Orleans, but I have a better spot for him, and that spot is under lust, which means to have very strong sexual desires. And oh boy, this man's been up to no good. Let me just say, I've seen a lot of headlines relating to his baby mamas, and it doesn't look too good for Zion's reputation. He was dating an adult actress named Mariah Mills for what she claims was 3 whole years. She said that Zion contacted her telling her that she was his fantasy girl and offered to take care of her. She literally said that he was providing her livelihood since 2021. He was also 19 when he first contacted her. Absolutely down bad, Zion. To want to be in a long-lasting relationship with an adult actress paying for everything she needs is crazy to me, and was a horrible decision for Zion. But it gets even worse because, to Mariah's surprise, Zion had a fling with another woman in 2023 working in adult entertainment. Her name is Akima, and Zion had actually gotten her pregnant, all while still supposedly being in a relationship with Mariah Mills. Zion's clearly fell into many temptations since joining the NBA, and I hope he can work to focus more on basketball and becoming the best player he can be. These outside distractions are only gonna hurt him and his career. I like him as a player, honestly. I really do. I'm not lying. I wish him the best. I do. It's just unfortunate what's happened to him, but it was his own hands that caused this. He was getting a little too frisky now. Now let's move on to greed now. Greed is an intense desire for material gains such as money. It can also be for power and status, not only money. This is one sin I personally find very destructive in society. The best example I can think of in the NBA though is Dennis Schroder, a current role player for the Nets, and he made one of the worst decisions in NBA history because of his greed for money. The crazy thing about Schroder is that he was never actually that great of a player. He was never an all-star, and he spent most of his career so far just being a solid role player. That being said, he made the very stupid and prideful decision to decline a 4-year, $84 million contract from the Lakers in 2021 because he thought he was worth more than that. Schroder was averaging only 15 points per game the season before, and he was seriously declining getting paid $20 million a year, which is already overplaying for the player he was that season. Seriously, how delusional does a player have to be to think that making $20 million in a year isn't enough? Most players, or not players, but most people can't even wrap their heads around that type of money, and this man was complaining about that pay being too low. He must have regretted that decision though, because he got exactly what he really deserved after that. No team was picking Schroder up, so he had to settle for a 1-year, $5.9 million contract with the Celtics. This is one of the best works of karma I've seen in the NBA. Schroder should have never declined that Lakers contract. I hope he learned a lesson from that decision, but who knows, honestly. Now on to pride, which is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. I think this one is pretty tough, but I think Kat has made the most prideful remarks in the NBA. There's definitely competition though, because KD and Chet Holmgren have said some crazy things too. Just look at what Jalen Suggs once said in an interview about KD.
Yeah, so we're playing Brooklyn. He gets a foul call. A bit softer. One of those superstar foul calls, and I go up to him. I'm like, they're like, the ref's getting the ball, whatever, to inbound it. I go up to KD, I walk past him, I'm like, then you get those type of calls? Like, that's what you get? He looked at me straight like this. He said, I'm God, Rook. He called himself God in the middle of the game.
God. I don't know if any of you guys know what that means. But when a person says they're God, that means they're really good at doing something. And that's basketball.
I lost it. Like, I was cracking up on the court.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember that. I remember you come back to the bench and like everybody's like, yo, did he really say that?
Yeah, KD is pretty delusional for what he said there. Chet also said he's the best player in the NBA, which, I mean, come on, he's not even near being the best player on his own team, and debatably not even the second best player on his team.
Best player in the NBA, in your opinion?
Myself in 2 months.
Now I'm still deciding to pick Kat over these two because he just can't stop with his dumb remarks. The one time he said he changed the game still cracks me up today. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly he changed. Maybe he knows something we don't. I don't know. He can't take any criticism at all either. Look at this.
4 shots for you. Just what did you see out there, and why was it so hard for you to get involved?
Then once again, when playing the Grizzlies in the 2022 playoffs, this is what Kat said right before Game 3. Yeah, we're in Minnesota now, like I said after the media. Cool, we got to come back to our house now. I only seen them at their house, Towns told Greg Monroe. The Grizzlies ended up beating the Wolves after that comment, and Kat scored just 8 points in 33 minutes. Yep, we see over and over again that Kat can't seem to stop himself from talking himself up, and he does it over and over again and keeps looking stupid while he does it. Please just stop opening your mouth and maybe you wouldn't be seen as a laughing stock.
This win guarantees one more game in Minnesota. What does this do for the series for you guys?
Like I said, they got a good home record, but we do too. So we get to go to their house next game, and then they still got to come back here to our house. So we ready.
Sloth is the reluctance to work or make an effort. Basically, it's laziness in its simplest term. I think no one represents this better than Ben Simmons himself. I've never actually seen him leave his comfort zone to get better at playing basketball. He obviously has incredible natural talents and had several all-star appearances on the 76ers, but he's gone so downhill from the time when all the drama happened before he left the Sixers. Not only was he never willing to start taking more threes to help his team out, but there was so so much unneeded drama that he created with the Sixers, and he had the audacity to refuse to practice and play with the Sixers in 2021 to 2022. Keep in mind that Doc Rivers and his teammates had high hopes for Simmons, but Simmons brought his downfall upon himself. I'll try to go over the timeline with Ben Simmons as quickly as I can to show just how uncooperative he's really been. It started in 2021 during the playoffs, where he was really underperforming, especially from the foul line. He never took the time to learn to properly shoot, so it messed him up in that series. The Sixers ended up suffering that season and losing to the Hawks, and it was largely due to Simmons' lack of shooting. In the offseason after, the Sixers were looking to potentially trade Simmons for someone that would better fit the team, but trade talks ended up stalling because the Sixers had a high asking price. Simmons ended up getting butthurt and impatient, so he asked for a trade himself, and on top of that, he said he won't report to training camp. He decided to go completely missing in action, even though his teammates still showed him love and wanted him back, though that would quickly change to frustration. Simmons was losing millions, so during the preseason, he finally decided to come back, temporarily at least. A week later, he was kicked out of practice for not properly engaging with his team. Then, when the 2021 to 2022 season finally started, Simmons said he was having mental health issues and wasn't ready to play, which I think was a way to honestly save himself from losing more money. And I'm saying this because the 76ers had offered him many mental health resources and he was declining all of them, which is pretty suspicious. Anyway, progress was halted for a long time until Simmons was traded a few months later to the Nets, where he is to this day. Nowadays, he's coming off the bench as an average role player, averaging 7, 8, and 7. He really hasn't made any change in the way he plays yet and hasn't attempted a single three this season. I think most of us have honestly lost hope in Ben's progress as a player. Hopefully, he proves us all wrong one day and decides to become the next Michael Jordan. The very last one we're going over is envy, a desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attribute belonging to someone else. Kevin Durant wins this one, and I think we all know why. The greatest display of envy KD has shown is obviously leaving the Thunder and joining the Warriors after losing to them in the 2016 playoffs. It's one of the most known betrayals in NBA history, and KD has held the title of Snake ever since that day he left the Thunder. KD has also always been known to go crazy with his burner accounts on social media and can't stop letting the haters get to his head. I mean, isn't that crazy that he gets that enraged over any criticism of him at all? He just can't handle the heat. He even admitted himself he's felt jealous of others. In a 2015 interview, he said, "I thought it was a bad trait I had. I was like, man, am I jealous? Why do I hate this guy? But I hope both the teams lose. That's how I feel." After saying that, it's not surprising that KD goes on his burner accounts to respond to any sort of criticism or hate anybody gives him at all. He has a fragile ego, and envy alone has changed his reputation as a player, and I personally would have loved to see him not be affected by the loss to the Warriors. I think the Thunder might have been able to win a ring or two, which would have helped his legacy and reputation, but we can't change what happened in the past. I'm at least glad to see that KD has become a little more chill since his days on the Warriors. I don't see as much hate as I used to on him. One last thing, I want to say again that I don't mean to spread any hate on these players because we already have enough of that in the world. I was inspired by this YouTuber named Wattable, who I will link in the description on this topic, and I thought it'd be interesting to use the same idea but on the NBA instead. That's that. Thank you.